terrible news for Mercedes after FIA decision. So we're going to be going through that in today's video and 5 other stories. So make sure to like this video, and if you want more Mercedes F1 content like this, don't forget to subscribe to the channel, hitting that red button down below. But let's get into the first story, because FIA have formally outlawed Mercedes F1 slot gap separator trick. Mercedes had arrived at the United States Grand Prix in Austin with a new front wing design, but its use of provocative slot gap separators quickly garnered attention from its rivals. The team's opposition felt that the new fin-like variants carried much more aerodynamic intent in diverting airflow than the rules that were supposed to be allowed. Rivals suspected that the way that the separators were built helped deliver key performance gains in better managing airflow over the car. Rather than them being to purely beef up the wing elements, Mercedes argued, however, that the regulations only demanded that such slot gap separators be primarily for mechanical, structural, or measurement reasons, so any secondary aero benefit was allowed. Mercedes never intended on using the front wing at the US Grand Prix, as it didn't have enough of them for spares or to cater for both drivers. However, its appearance in the pit lane meant that prior to the following week's Mexican Grand Prix, that there was an opportunity for rivals to lobby the FIA to not allow the design to run. The FIA duly agreed that the fins did provide secondary aero benefits, so the brackets had to be removed before the wing was used for the first time at the Mexican Grand Prix. In a bid to prevent teams from trying to pursue the concept in a different way that got around the primary requests in the regulations, the FIA have now tweaked the 2023 technical regulations. A new draft of the rules that was approved by this week's Motor Sport Council demands that slot gap separator brackets must now provide a structural connection between the consecutive profiles, whilst their dimension and connecting proximities have also been altered to reinforce the governing body's original intent. A sentence explaining their primary purpose, not being aerodynamic, has also been removed. So this is honestly huge, and speaking at the time, Mercedes technical director Mike Elliott said the demand for such separators have only a primary purpose, not to deliver aero gains, was key to it pushing forward with the idea. I think there's a fuss about it, because in the regulations it talks about the primary use being for mechanical or measurement purposes, and clearly there's a secondary benefit of any aerodynamic design that there is as well. Elliott said that Mercedes had consulted the FIA about the idea throughout its design process, but always knew that there was a risk of it being outlawed. We're going through a CAD review process with the FIA before we come to the circuit. That happens all the time, he added, and so it was something that has seen there, and then they can come back and say, we're not sure about this. I think you look at the regulations, there are about 40 odd incidences in regulation of sole purpose. In this case, it doesn't say sole purpose, it says primary purpose. So this is honestly huge and a bit of a blow when it comes to what Mercedes were definitely trying to do, especially for next season, because they were definitely going to use something like this for next season and give them a greater advantage. But it is sad to see that FIA have made the decision and outlawed it completely. Now, the second story in today's video is Wolff is hoping for Mick Schumacher's lifeline, saying that he deserves a second chance. Toto Wolff says he hopes to see Mick Schumacher land an opportunity to another F1 team in 2023, even if a reserve driver is available. In one of the final driver announcements of 2022, it was confirmed ahead of the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix that Schumacher's time at Haas was up, with the 23-year-old being replaced by Nico Hülkenberg for 2023. The decision left Schumacher out of a race drive for 2023, but Mercedes team principal has spoken highly of the German F2 champion and suggested that the brutal pressure was too much. I really like Mick, and I like the family, how they have raised their kids with his unbelievable famous name. I think he deserves a chance. He won the junior series, and that's not that easy. Things can go against you when you're in the first years in Formula 1, and then he was under pressure to deliver, and that doesn't help, and Formula 1 is brutal. Schumacher had failed to match the big results set by teammate Kevin Magnussen, who claimed more points and secured pole position for the Haas team. However, Wolff commented that he still had belief in Schumacher's abilities and suggested that the season away from the grid, a move similar to Daniel Ricciardo's, would be beneficial. Maybe in a way, having a year off as a third driver, similar to what Daniel does, can be good to reassess yourself and bring yourself better in a better place, and then hopefully find a seat again, added Wolff. He also impressed me from his personality. The first time I met him, which was in the first year in Formula 3 in Hockenheim, he's just a good person. He won F3 and F2, and as I said before, that can't come out of nowhere. And I completely agree with what Toto Wolff has to say, because when it comes to Mick Schumacher, yes, he does have a very famous last name. However, in order for him to get to that position, he still has had to be a great driver. Yes, you may not be living up to your name just yet, but I think with Schumacher, and especially early on in his career, he still has a long way to go and can still prove a lot of these people wrong. Now, getting into the third story, Lewis Hamilton had something inside him telling him that he's not done yet. Lewis Hamilton said the drive behind his will to renew his contract with Mercedes beyond 2023 is something inside him telling him he's not done yet with racing. The 7-time Formula 1 champion's contract with Mercedes runs at the end of 2023 season, with team boss Toto Wolff confirming contract extension talks with their driver are set to be held over the winter break. Hamilton is still chasing that elusive 8th F1 driver's crown that puts him one place ahead of German legend Michael Schumacher, with whom he's now tied on 7. After losing out to Max Verstappen in 2021, 2022 saw Mercedes drop the ball with their W13, meaning having another go at the title was not possible for Hamilton. While Verstappen secured a second dominant title, Hamilton spoke of his future in top flight, and while he insisted he doesn't plan on racing forever, he revealed he still has a drive to go for now. It's not forever, but something inside is telling me I'm not done yet. You've got to keep pushing, you've got more to do and achieve more, the Briton said. It's going to be hard one day stopping racing, however I've done it for 30 years and it'll be 30 plus years when I do it eventually stop. Luckily for me, right this second, it's not now. The winner of 103 Grand Prix revealed a split in the Hamilton camp regarding when he should go for his future. He said, my dad and my brother, they're like, yeah, keep racing forever, because they're racers. For my mom and my sister, I can definitely sense they want me to do whatever I want to do. They can also see how tiring it is, that it weighs heavy on you. Sometimes when I go around to my sister's house, I just pass out on the couch. So obviously there is a lot to it when it comes to Hamilton re-signing next year and also for the future. Now, getting into the fourth story, Wolff stresses importance of floor changes in F1, saying the bouncing came back. After an extensive rule change for 2022, a number of teams had to deal with bouncing cars. While most teams had largely dealt with the problem after a few races, Mercedes in particular continued to struggle with porpoising. Now, when it came to this, despite the fact that the problem had also been resurfaced at Mercedes, the team's position has not been changed. At the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix, some bouncing was again visible at the W13, and Wolff seizes on that to underline the need for the changes. The Mercedes boss urges that his team had to make a compromise regarding this setup and attributes it to the character of the Yas Marina circuit. He sees as an important reminder that the problem is still there and needs to be addressed. You come to a conclusion that it's not a problem anymore, and then you find a track which is not even the worst in terms of bouncing and porpoising, and the bouncing and a poor ride is back, Wolff said. So this is definitely something they have to solve next season if they want to be in contention for another Drivers' and Constructors' Championship. Now, getting into the fifth story, Lewis Hamilton's Mercedes contract is on Toto Wolff's agenda, and especially during the winter. So the early stages of 2022 campaign did spark some doubts over Hamilton's long-term future at Mercedes, as a team W13 challenger off the pace and Hamilton seemingly not enjoying life at the wheel. So this is going to be exciting, because if Lewis Hamilton is given enough years, I definitely think he can win his 8th elusive Drivers' Championship and will cement him as the greatest driver ever to live.